welcome to the TSM Fanhub Podcast. This is episode 2. I am your host, Josh, and joining me today are my fellow TSM fans. We got Brad, Chris, and Jeff. I just want to quickly thank everybody who tuned in last week to our first episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you're here, thank you for sticking with us into week 2. We hope to get better every week. So going forward, we just want to reiterate that we want to be we are the place for fans to come and find out about all of the teams that TSM has, and we want to give information, analysis on their games, anything like that. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. The first big bit of news that kind of dropped, I believe it dropped today, is, and it has to do with everybody under TSM, is I believe everybody. It's not just the league team. T-Mobile is investing in TSM and C9. This, I'm pretty sure, is not the big investor that Reggie has been talking about, as he said something about that news dropping in January. So still big on the level of something like Red Bull or a Geico or something like that. So what are you guys' thoughts real quick on that exciting news?
I think it's, all in all, is just more money coming to the scene. Like, you can never have enough money, especially with I'll call it a growing sport. You can never have enough money coming to the team, coming to the sport in general. I'm really excited for it because T-Mobile is a big name, like you mentioned, like Red Bull, like Geico. I really think this is, it might not, it might not be a huge, like you said, it's not the VC money that we're going to hear from Reggie in January, but again, I think it's just more growing the sport. It's all about growing the sport.
Yeah, and it's nice to see us joining the telecom wars. hopefully, it's not just in phone companies. We're just going to beat KT and SKT because of this now.
Or is it going to be T-Mobile versus Verizon soon?
Who knows? TSM Comcast versus. Anyways, one of the things that was brought up somewhere, I forget which subreddit, might have been the TSM subreddit, was the TSM announcement explicitly said that they're partnering with Verizon for the remainder of the year, whereas the C9 announcement doesn't really announce an ending date. So who knows exactly how long this is going to last, or what the inner workings of those deals are, if that's going to be re-upped. I don't know if that's something to be worried about. If you guys remember back this week, there was a post on the subreddit about it's like an article about how TSM actually is in a really worrying spot, and I don't think that, I think something like this definitely shows that that's not necessarily true. TSM constantly is getting big name companies buying in and investing in them. So anyone else have any thoughts about that? Or just, it's exciting and more money into the scene. Yeah.
If we have an ending date, maybe it's because we're planning on renegotiating. Maybe there's a chance that maybe they are the big sponsor and they just want this deal to be this for now until we decide to renegotiate or something like that.
Yeah, this could be a trial run. You never know.
Exactly.
It could also be, it could be to show a big investor what kind of, money the whole sport brings in. I talked about money before, but, and you just said, it might not be the big investor. Also, it might be if once they see what TSM can bring to the table, then maybe they'll be like, okay, we're all in.
Yeah. Anyway you slice it, it's pretty exciting, at least to the end of the year. So that's definitely something. Keep your eye out for new jerseys with T-Mobile dropping. Who knows? I have no idea what's going on in the store, so I can't promise that for you.
Sorry.
Sweet. So I guess with that, not much else happened on the TSM front, as in org news. So we'll get into some players and some games. First up this week, we had the Super Smash Conference, which both Leffen and Zero attended. It was a decent tournament for Zero. And
could have been better, but it was
He went through the winners bracket. Leffen had a much worse weekend. So we're gonna start with Zero. Jeff and Chris, you guys are our Smash guys. Talk us through Zero, how he did this weekend, how he looked.
Well, like you said, it's really good that he went through the winners bracket because it's interesting. I kind of thought that he was going to do better in grand finals because he didn't have to go through what he went through at the last tournament. He went through losers and had to play every single Bayonetta, every single Cloud. And like in this tournament, he played against a lot of Zero Suit Samus, I think. And basically, that's a matchup that he's just going to be more used to. So for the most part, he came off as a lot stronger looking, which is interesting because he came off as pretty strong looking in the last one. But going through winners, I thought that he would be able to use that momentum to sort of just steamroll grand finals, or at least, win. But it's tough to have 2 Game 10 losses in a row at 2 tournaments in a row, because the mental toll that must take on you is just ridiculous, especially for someone like him.
That second best of 5 went so quickly.
It really
you could
did.
tell that he was really slipping in that.
Yeah. That was the fastest 5-game series I've ever seen.
Yeah, once he lost control, there's no getting that back.
Mm-hmm. But that's Zero. He's an emotional player. He doesn't like the adversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was going through my notes from the actual game, and for the whole grand finals, honestly, like the thing that really stuck out to me was just that both players were like a super back and forth. Nero going from the losers going up to the winners bracket, and he had to constantly keep fighting off Zero. Like there wasn't he wasn't there. He wasn't at this tournament, and he just didn't just take the L's quietly. The whole time he was fighting back and forth. There were times where I think game 3 of the first set, not the reset, he actually 2-0'd him. Like he straight off just beat him straight up. And then from there he continues to move on. And then another one is a big one was game 5 where Nero missed 4. He spot dodged his grabs so clean the whole tournament, where he would basically just call him out, where he knew exactly where his grab, where it was going to land, and he would just stand there. And then as soon as the grab a thing, then he would roll in, grab, and then throw. Every single time. So it was a very reviewed, and obviously he knows Nero because this is the old guard from Melee way back in the day, before Tweak, before all the rest of them. And I think one of the biggest things was that you could see the old rivalry. They knew each other more than just this is this matchup. Like what I talked about last week, where I said Zero was playing towards the matchup of the character, not the actual person playing it. This actually shows me that he does know the player. It just might take him a little bit longer to get used to the new players. But there is hope. So that's what I'm saying. He did really well. It's a loss, and it's a bad loss, but it's a good loss to a point where the growth of it can be really, really big, and there's a lot to learn from this tournament. And there's a lot of hope for him too, because he just went back and forth so well that you're just okay, give him a couple more tournaments with these new guys, he's probably going to come back smacking some people around again like he used to be. So it was pretty cool to watch, actually.
Yeah. And you could see really where it came out, whenever it was on ledges, essentially, because Zero was doing a really good job of getting underneath him and playing well from below him.
Yeah.
But the problem is he just wasn't able to punish fully to the point where he was able to get stocks off of him. The last game was a 2-0, because even though he would get underneath him and would get percentage on him, it just wasn't enough, and he would just, after it, attempt to punish him and then get essentially killed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you guys, do you see good growth or at least adaptation coming in from last weekend's tournament into this one? Looking promising?
I'd say the beginnings of growth. It's not in fully fledged growth form yet, but it's getting there, starting to.
He's got a good roadmap. That's what I would say. He's got a good roadmap to know what he needs to do to keep continuing to be number 1, because if he wants to be under this TSM banner, he better start taking some more championships, because that's what we expect around here. That's what we that's what we want.
That hardware.
Exactly. Show us the results. We're not the old double lifts trophy case, man. That thing's filled now.
Man. Well, speaking about hardware, Leffen had a much different tournament this weekend, and I'm gonna hand it over to Chris for a moment. He's got a whole.
I got a goddamn bone to pick with all you fuckers real quick, but
I think he's got like a 5-page essay that he's written out on what's going on here. So yeah, grab some popcorn, pull up a chair, put the family around the radio.
This is gonna be a good old time. Okay, I'm first gonna go through the set that basically tilted me off into oblivion. But first of all, it was a fun set to watch. The Leffen versus Pleb set, for anybody that wants to see some honest to god good melee tech spotting people going back and forth, great ledge grabs, shine spikes, all the fucking bells and whistles. Watch this. From game 1 to game 5, they were back and forth non-stop with each other. Plup's edge guards were like ridiculous. There were in game 1 alone, he had a ledge guard where he down smashed Leffen 3 times, and Leffen had to keep firing boxing his ass back up until Plup then rolled back up, and then Leffen got back on stage, and as soon as Leffen saw the hole, he up smashed him into oblivion, and everyone was like, what the hell, this is only like the first game, this is gonna be great. I was blown out of my mind, completely blown out of my mind with that whole set. And then in game 3 too, Plup brings out his Samus, which I thought was really cool because Samus on FD, usually Samus wins that one, or is actually it's favored towards Fox, but how Plup played it was just using the spacing, completely controlling the map, and then when he was off stage, he would purposely use his grab, so then anytime that you get off stage and Samus is going to use his grab and get right back on, and Leffen tries to shine spike that, he's done, because then he loses stage, and then it's all game over from there, which Leffen played out of his mind too. He actually won that game, but it was just cool to see Plup to bring out a different character, especially versus a hardcore guy named Leffen. He goes back to Sheik and goes to goes to Fountain, beats him there, good edge guards, and then game 5. Here we go. Game 5, Leffen plays his goddamn heart out, picks Pokemon Stadium. The windmills, the real MVP of that match, saved his ass probably 2 to 3 times. And
that last stock alone.
Yeah, that last stock alone, he was up to, that game alone, he was up to, there was like 2 or 3 stocks where he had like 130%, and he was just still fighting back and forth with Plup, while he was just, basically Plup was just running circles around him with Sheik. It was pretty nasty. Both of them were really nasty that whole time. Then he loses. And this is where my shit goes to town, because it's like, this is ridiculous. But, so he loses, and after a tough set, and everyone knows Leffen's an emotional player, he actually, before the tournament, he actually didn't want to go because he was feeling sick already. So he was already complaining about him being sick. While he was at the tournament, his first controller broke. And then he was complaining that during that set versus Plup, his controller was messing up on him again. So when he left, he was like, okay, I need to fix my controller, just reset, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. Tournament guy comes up to him and goes, well, you have to play your losers match to see if you can get in top 8 tomorrow. And he's like, how much time do I get? And he's like, you got like 10 minutes. And he has to play versus SFAT for CLG, by the way. So that's even a rivalry match on its own, CLG versus TSM. Then they go, okay, fine. He's already wrecked, by the way, because that would have got him into top 8. He would have been able to sleep in a little bit. He would have been able to get over his sickness. He would have been like golden, and he would have probably won. Him and Mango would have met at one point in the winners, and that would have been fun to watch. But he doesn't get that. He gets knocked out, and then 10 minutes later, after he already knows his controller is fucked, and he's not feeling well, they're like, okay, so you got to play SFAT to see if you can even play tomorrow, or you're out. And then they happened to give him an extra 15 minutes because the announcers were bullshit. And by the way, the whole time when we were watching the stream, the announcers had no idea what the fuck was going on. They thought that the Smashies were going to fucking happen next because they thought Leffen was going to get a day. Like all of us thought. But then they force him. Then they just ask him the question after 15 minutes, go, well, you either play or you DQ. So Leffen was like, fuck that, I DQ. And that's when I lost my shit. Because I was like, okay, I know I'm a TSM fanboy, but what if you give Leffen that day, he comes back, he beats SFAT, he makes a fucking run, and you have a legendary final of Leffen versus Mango, Leffen coming through the loser's bracket. Not saying that could happen, and you can call me a fanboy in the comments, I don't give a crap, but what I'm saying, that's the possibility, but because somebody couldn't map out a schedule and go, hey, this is how long a match is during if you go to the full set, if it's 2 floaties and they're just dodging around with each other, this is how long it's going to be, and if it goes to max games, this is how long it be, so this is how long we need for each match for this time period. They could have planned this out, but nobody wanted to, everyone just wanted to throw shit at a wall and see what stuck, and then we lost out on a fucking badass, could have been a badass final, or at least a good run. Leffen had to go through like SFAT, and Axe was still in there. There was a U2 King was still in there. Mango. You just start naming them all off. They were all in there, and it could have been just another good old Royal Rumble. But once again, somebody in the scene doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and kind of basically just dropped the ball on it. And after they coaxed them to come out there to boot. So what do you really think they do? You think Leffen's going to come out to the next MashCon? Probably not after that experience, because you know how he is. And then you're just going to lose it off at that point. And I guess like my main point about this is like, this isn't the first time we've seen this in a tournament. Last week, Zero said in an after the interview, he was like, dude, it was kind of bullshit that I had to play like 7 games before the finals, and they were all hard matches. Like, who was planning that out? Why do you have a 2-day Smash tournament? Or if you're going to do it, why can't you schedule it more in the first day and then give the people that make it to the end? I get it. Grinding it out in pools, that's what you got to do. But the top 8, top 16, you guys can do a little bit more planning to make it more like, I'm not saying like super professional, because I know I get spoiled with Riot, but like, you know, make it clean it up a little bit. We're fucking all smart enough. You're all fucking, if you're old enough to make a goddamn Smash Con with a huge ass fucking tournament, you're old enough to figure out a goddamn schedule. Like, let's be honest.
I mean, you'd be surprised.
But when are we going to start taking this shit seriously, though? Like, when are people going to be like, hey, when, like, this is a budding industry, esports in general, but, like, the fighting game community, it's, like, prime, like, right now. Like, you got Street Fighter, you got all the Smashes, you got all that.
Tekken.
Yeah, you got Tekken. If you clean up, like, picture Evo with just some really, really good production at the end. Or, like legit, like, I don't know, throw some, like, fucking TV money at that bitch. Dude, that could be fucking amazing. Or, like, anything. Like, just look at that. Why aren't we stepping up and trying to, like, no one's questioning it either. That's the other thing that's bugging me, is that nobody in the scene's like, hey, why are these streams so shitty? Oh, hey, why is the tournament set up like this? Why did Leffen get left out like that? That's bullshit. Like, why do we just say, oh, it's grassroots, who gives a shit? But everything good that grassroots grows into something big. Like, that's what we were trying to do when we first started this scene and going, hey, let's get together and start playing video games together and let's start throwing money together. That's what it started. We had dreams of making it big. Well, we have the fucking opportunity. We got to take it.
Yeah.
And I think you bringing up Riot and grassroots and all that stuff is exactly it, because it's time for us to ask the age-old question again, where the fuck is Nintendo? Why the fuck does Nintendo not want to help out essentially free advertisement? The entire reason why I still play Melee is because I love competitive. Competitive is so awesome. And Melee, the entire reason why I want to get a Wii U, any sort of like Nintendo product, is pretty much because of competitive Melee. Like, it's free advertisement. And not only that, do you know how much respect they would get from the community at the day that they announced that they are going to start sponsoring tournaments? Or even just, not even sponsoring, just saying like, hey, it's cool, we can just send a little bit of cash or whatever, or just like help out in any way whatsoever. Because they've essentially banished us in a lot of ways. Like, with the way that they treat the competitive scene, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, someone needs to step up in the, like, either it could be Nintendo or something, or even just us in general, the people that are hosting the tournament, start taking yourselves seriously. Like, if it's honestly like, you can do you can do the multiplication on your computer, for fuck's sake. Like, what is it, 8 6-minute matches, 5 games apiece? Like, I could do it fucking in my head, for fuck's sake. Like, like, it's that simple that you just plan it out like that. And then if the games are shorter, cool, the players get a break. Good for them. You guys are our entertainment, so why don't you treat them with a little bit of fucking respect and plan something out? Like, it's the little stuff that's gonna make it grow, and it's gonna make the Nintendos notice. When we start taking ourselves seriously, they're gonna go, because that's the same thing Riot did. Riot just started taking themselves seriously, and then, oh, now all of a sudden all this VC money coming in. us as people hosting this tournament, why don't, and if you're going to complain about money and like, oh, manpower, how about you don't do so many small tournaments, and how about in those regions, you guys start talking to each other. You guys start networking and make one big tournament for a region. How about the Midwest host one region, then the Southeast, and then the Northeast, and then the North or the West Coast, or you can even split it up between NorCal and SoCal, and each region puts on one big tournament a year. How hard would that be? You pull everything together and you can do something fucking cool. Like, fucking Jesus, guys. Like, this just like I don't understand why no one's just sitting here going, guys, this is could be something cool. Like, why don't we take our, like, just clean our little image up a little bit? We can still have Bango in the back drinking his beer with the homies. That's cool. That's what makes Melee great. We already got the characters. You don't even have to do the advertising. We already did it for ourselves. Just give us a little, just clean it up a little bit, make it more appealing to the families, because we already got that, and get us more viewers. We'll grow. What the fuck, man? Yeah. Leffen Nation, bro.
Yeah, those are really good points. It's really interesting to have. It's almost as if they're holding like a golden ticket, and they're just like, man, we're supposed to do something with this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the train is like starting to go.
Yeah, the train's
like, what do I do?
They're like, I think there's something about a ticket and a train. I can't put it together.
Free money on the front.
Yeah. Free money and success this way. Yeah. I can't figure this out. Yeah.
The conductor's like, hey, I see the ticket, dude. It's there. I see. Come here.
Just come here. Just follow us right over here. Someone needs to do it. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my rant. There you go. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I understand, and I can see how that'd be really frustrating, especially like, say you didn't care for League of Legends or some of these, better produced games, and this is what you get. The one esport that you care about, Smash, and this is the production that you get, and these are the things that you have to deal with. I mean, it can be really frustrating, and I feel like if they keep that up, it's harder to grow the scene like that. It's harder to retain fans that way. Kind of pointing this back towards Leffen. Obviously this is really rough on him. He seemed a little bit better the next day when he was tweeting out the next morning. He said that he felt a little bit better. But how do you think this tournament, what happened to him, is going to affect him going forward? I know he's got stuff coming up this weekend. What does he need to do to reset and do well this next tournament?
He's already tested new controllers out. I was watching a stream earlier just because I thought this question or this thing would come up, this subject, because I was like, I wonder what he's doing. And Homeboy's still doing the same shit. He's ranting on his stream, testing out controllers to introduce bullshit like normal. Like, I think he's over his like young stage of him like holding on to losses so much. I think now it's just like, fuck, dude, this was a shitty situation. I wish someone would have given a shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And he was just like, fuck it, I'm over it. And then he left.
Yeah. Essentially, I see one of two results happening. One, he's salty as fuck and comes in and just gets destroyed because his mindset is in the wrong place. And two, he comes in determined. He says, yeah, I was sick. Here's me proving it. And comes in and just smashes. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it all depends on how he takes it. And it's just such an X factor that there's no way of determining which, because we've seen both happen. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, that's we'll be talking about they both got tournaments coming up this weekend, so we'll be talking about that at the end of the show. But moving on for now, getting out of Smash into VainGlory. So the TSM VainGlory team, who in this was week 3 of Split 2 for the summer. They just a short recap on their season so far. They lost. They got 0-2'd in the first round of week 1 and week 2 by the 2 lowest seeded teams in the region. And so at the start of this week, they were tied in points with Cloud9, and that is seeding the top 6 teams from NA and EU get to go to the Unified Championship, I believe. The Unified Western Championship, sorry.
Yep.
And so they were coming in pretty much. This was they had to. I mean, unless C9 was gonna lose in the first day, TSM had to make it to finals to secure their first seed. So, what were your thoughts, Brad, on TSM this week and how they played? They had 3 best of 3s this week. They ended up making it to the finals. I don't know why I'm like withholding that information. What were your thoughts on that?
Last week we talked about their game against, was it Rogue?
I believe,
or was it Immortals?
Immortals
Okay.
was last week.
Yeah, okay. So they looked incompetent. They looked like they each spoke a different language. Like like Von C would go roam into the jungle and then they would collapse on him, or like they would leave Best Chuck in the lane and then everyone would just collapse on him. Like it seemed like there was no communication among the team at all. And then this week, TSM was the team doing the baiting, the catching other players out. They were doing that kind of stuff to Tempo in their first series. And I don't know if it's a change in like style or if it's just they said, okay, time to buckle down. We need to make it to finals. We need this first seed. And like everything just seemed so much more fluid from what I saw.
Yeah, that's definitely something. While I was watching this, they seemed like a much more polished team. They didn't look necessarily in first place form. They did go 2-1 in both their quarters and semifinals this week. But they got a huge lead in game 1. Pretty much Best Chuck got so far ahead on I believe he was on Baron, and the game was over. He was like 4-0 at 5 minutes or something like that. And there was no way that Tempo was coming back into that game. Game 2, they got outdrafted a little bit. TSM drafted a sustained comp, and then Tempo drafted an even more sustained comp. And so team fights, TSM would engage and they'd fight a little bit and they'd start healing up, and then all of the sustain would come through for Tempo Storm, and it was like the fight would reset and TSM would now be at like half health. And I think that's a little worrying that they were outdrafted like that, and definitely they couldn't get leads to be able to turn those mid-game team fights in their favor. And they were just like some pretty shoddy trades and stuff like that. But game 3 was one of their better games on that first day. Von C was looking really good, which has been a problem. I feel like he hasn't really been on the same page as the team. You got Flash X and Best Chuck doing really well, playing off of each other in lane, and Flash X roaming around really well. But then Von C will sometimes, like, you'll look at the mini map and you'll be like, wait, why is Von C in the middle of 3 enemy teammates, like in their jungle, like at their furthest away jungle camp? Just cause. Although this game, he goes for an early invade and is able to get it off, and Tempo Storm just doesn't respond. Like if they had collapsed on him, that would have been a big issue. But he gets ahead. He's on a pretty much hyperscaling champ. He's on Cruel for that game, and he's just way too far ahead in that game. I think one of the biggest things from Von C the past couple of weeks when he's played Cruel is he's really been missing those ults. For those of you who are League fans, it's like a Sejuani ult, kind of. It's a big thing that stuns the first person it hits. And he missing a ton of those. And so this week was just, it seemed like they'd kind of like shaken off the funk and gotten back into it. Yeah. And then they played against C9. Oh, sorry, what?
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
How long was I gone for?
45 seconds, 30 seconds.
Forever and
Yeah,
a
you
day.
like just froze right when I went to talk, and then you're
Did you hear
like,
everything that I said?
No.
I heard you start to intro into the C9 series, and then that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's when okay, sweet. Well, I didn't say anything there. Well, that was weird. I have no idea what just happened. I was just hearing like ding dong, ding dong.
Split screen.
Split screen.
Split screen.
Anyway, oh, sorry. So Brad, what do you have to say about that?
About the C9 series?
Well, just about their game against Tempo Storm, because that was really like they needed that momentum to shift in their favor to go to do well this weekend.
Well, like you said, they got like that early game lead in game 1, and then Von C was, he got the lead for himself in game like 3, and that's something we haven't really seen too much of. Like, excuse me, I've been noticing they've been playing more like passively. They have not been like looking for those early team fights, looking for those jungle skirmishes. And then now that you see that start to come out is when you start to see TSM succeed. So hopefully going forward, going into the unified championship, if that's what it's actually called.
Yeah. If that is in fact its real name.
If that is, yeah. I'm hoping that's what you see more of. Like, TSM had a successful week. They went all the way to finals. So, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think, I mean, Tempo Storm, again, they're not like a great team, but it's a team TSM should beat, especially as the best team in NA right now. And yeah, like you said, getting early game leads and then using those leads to snowball and keep communicating. And then that's just what TSM needs to do, even every game. I mean, they did it in the Tempo Storm series. They need to do that every series, every game in order to be successful.
Yeah. Moving into the C9 series real quickly. We probably won't spend as much time on this. I mean, this one was a little bit more important. The biggest notes that I saw from this series is Von C plays really, really disrespectfully. He doesn't respect the enemy position. He doesn't respect vision. He's like the Haunter of VainGlory.
Sounds like a TSM trend, actually.
Yeah.
You're kind of guy.
Yeah, he's and honestly, the series against C9 went a lot like the series versus Tempo Storm. Game 1, they got ahead. They were able to outplay, out-rotate. They had good map movement. Game 2, Von C got caught out. They got behind. They weren't able to get off the ground. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Am I doing this wrong?
I lost my.
I forget. I forget if they lost or won game 1. Anyway, but then game 3 looked the same, where Kroll got off the ground, and TSM was able to bring that home as well. Yeah, it was. It's one of those where it's like, yeah, they beat C9, they beat the number 2 team in the region, but it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go and we're gonna rock the United Western, but again, not horrible.
Yeah. I guess I was gonna say, like, it was a huge series, but it just doesn't seem like I'm trying to think of like a comparison, but I can't think of one right now. It just, like you said, it's not satisfying, because if they would have came out and just stomped the whole way through, then I would have been confident. But like,
Right.
But again, C9 is probably the second best team. I mean, arguably, they're probably both tied for. I mean, they could both be argued as the best team in NA.
It felt like the wins that TSM got, the league squad, during the first 5 weeks of the split, where their wins, you're happy they got the W, but you're like, guys,
we didn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
But that's the fun
movie-
thing about TSM. Even when we play bad, we
yeah.
win.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing about. It's actually really funny how there's analogs across all the games like that. And then real quickly, I'm not going to spend much time on this. The final, they played Immortals. They subbed in FlashX, who's their captain, for one of their analysts who's been, who's a sub on their team, Lucky Bread. And the team looked like they didn't have their main shot caller. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, if you take, that'd be like taking Bjerg or someone out of like the league team. I don't want to keep going back to the league team, but it's just like take Bjerg out of that and put, let's say you take put Poe Belter there. Like this team would not look the same at all,
Right.
assuming they were of the same skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was very much the team fights looked a lot more. Team fighting is one place where TSM usually, as long as they're not way behind, they excel at that. In like jungle team fights like that, they put Lucky Bread in, and they were, within a team fight, they were getting flanked, they were getting surrounded, caught out. Some members of the team further than the other two guys, and it just looked a lot. It looked like their shot caller. It looked like the guy who was holding the team together wasn't there, and he wasn't. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They look like Liquid do all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the past couple Immortals might be last or second to last or whatever, but they're not a bad team.
I think they actually locked in 6th place this weekend. So
they've looked impressive. I mean, to be honest, I started covering VainGlory 3 weeks ago, and we decided we were going to do this.
Yeah.
They've looked impressive since then.
Right.
And then so losing to Immortals in the finals without Flash X is there's no shame in that.
Right. So, let's see. Just for everybody who doesn't watch VainGlory or anything like that, definitely something coming up at the end of the first 2 weeks of September. That would be a great time to get into VainGlory. It's the Unified Western Championship, so EU and NA teams, the top 6 from those regions, are going to come together, and they're going to play in a short tournament. There's 2 rounds where the bottom 4 teams from both regions duke it out, and the teams that come out of that then play another round against the top 2 seeds from both regions, and then there's a short bracket play. And that'll be coming up. That's actually going to be in LA at the Globe Theater from September 8th to the 10th. So that's definitely, if you want to, if you've never watched VainGlory and you want to just, try something, that would be the time. It's not week to week play. So there's actually games that mean stuff. And yeah, definitely cheer on TSM there. Sweet. So that's VainGlory for now. Moving right along, the next squad that we're going to be talking about is the PUBG squad. They didn't have any official tournaments this week. Remember, their next tournament is going to be at GamesCon, August 23rd to 26th. But they have been playing in a couple practice tournaments, and they're practice both from the people putting them on and the teams. TSM is using these as scrims essentially to get ready for upcoming GamesCon. What are our thoughts overall? I don't know how many of you guys watched any of that. I know, Chris, you've been following them. I've been following them. What were your thoughts on this? They didn't ever place first. They didn't really, I don't think they placed in the top 3 at any of these. What are your thoughts?
They looked like a team practicing. I think that Vis and Marcus or AIM-PR, I think they're both super vocal, so I think they're meshing out different calls, because I'm not saying they're totally it's a bad thing. I just think that they're figuring out who is going to call what and who's going to pay attention to what and who's going to be the final, say we're doing this type of situation, or are they doing more collective? Smack, I don't know where he's been. If you guys know where Smack's at, I mean, in any of the tournaments.
Smack was, I believe, I could have this location completely wrong. I believe he was in the Galapagos or something like that, something random like that. So one of these tournaments that have Halifax jumping in for him. The team didn't look as good without.
No.
Yeah, didn't
But-
inspire too much confidence.
No. But the one thing though that I do like is that Break's just kind of playing into his role of I'm gonna fuck shit up early game and I will be the dude that comes and saves your ass with a pistol when you're running around a tree and some dude's trying to run you through dude that right there was so funny when he was trying to save
It was so
aim.
funny.
I was like, wow,
Just
this
like
is
hiding behind a tree.
I was like, dude, this is the bro move. This is exactly why TSM was formed for this reason. Because every other team be like, dude, sorry, man, we'll go out with threes. Not TSM, man. No, we're going fours or nothing, bro. So we're saving our homie. But
Yeah.
like besides that, they're a team practicing, and honestly, Viz, when I was watching his stream earlier today, he kind of went on a little bit of a rant. I don't know if anybody
Yeah.
clipped that, but he went on a rant about third person and first person, and like. I do agree with it where an average person versus like the skill gap is closer. Like an average person can be looked very, very, very well off in third person because you have more advantages than you do have in first person. And I do like first person to the point of there can be more possibilities because you can't see everything. Like the mystery part of it makes it way more entertaining, at least from my standpoint. Some people be like, but no, whatever.
Right.
I get it, but this is my opinion, so. Yeah.
I think the fact that you're in a first-person shooter or whatever, a third-person shooter, you're in a shooting game, and you can be completely out of view of your competitors and watch their every. You can be lying down on a roof. It's completely safe. Like the only way they can get you if they somehow guess and throw a grenade at you, and you can watch them cross the field, and they could be the most. They could be watching with the most detail and they'll never see you. And that's, there needs to be a trade-off. Reward teams for doing their due diligence and actually being, scouting well. Yeah, it seems like with all of these tournaments, there's been a lot of issues. I know Vis has been, complaining about a couple things, and I think there is a lot of merit to it. Kind of the whole idea of RNG versus, I guess non-RNG. But so a couple of things that he's brought up is, like the circle needs to be figured out about the circle, because you can have a team, in a 3-game series, say a team jumps, west the first game and the circle shifts west, and then the next game they jump east and the circle shift east. Like they have such an advantage now over a team that went south both games or something like that. And so I don't necessarily know what the best fix for something like that would be. I was actually trying to think of a couple ideas, like would that be like slower circles at the start, or having a smaller zone in which the circle can shift into, or smaller, the circle shrinking at smaller rates or something like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on how to, change that huge RNG factor? Chris.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I think that with the circle thing, I honestly I would love to see them just take completely RNG out and just be like, okay, so first game it's gonna go in the middle. The second game, or if you want to add RNG, you go, okay, one game there's no RNG where it goes strictly in the middle. The second and the first game, you guarantee them that it will be north or south or east or west. Does that make sense? Like it will be in this corridor, but we don't know where in that corridor, but it will end up in this corridor. So then teams have because then you can just get more strategic with it. Does that make sense? If you know where the circle is going to be, then there will be teams that will be like, all right, I'm going to fight outside the circle. Or then you kind of know what's going to happen. And then like anytime you put more strategy involved, teams are going to get creative. It's just the same thing with League. You throw a new champion in there. We all like, oh, we don't always want to talk about League, but we're all League fanboys, so I'm going to throw it in there. I don't give a crap.
Do it.
But it's like, you throw a new champion in there, and it kind of like it fucks with the whole meta. It's the same thing. You throw a new patch in, they do the same thing, but it adds strategy because you have to rethink about it in a different way. So if they give them those options, it's just like map pick in Melee. There's definitely mind games with map pick or different character styles with other people if you want to bring a different game into it. Or the same thing with CSGO. That's why they did map picks too, because it's like, oh, I want to do this way. Maybe you let, I don't know, maybe there's an upvote, you know what I'm saying? Like all the teams vote in the beginning and they go, okay, first map's going to be like this, second map's going to be like this, second map's going to be like this, each team gets one vote and that's how it's going to roll. And then you don't know, like, maybe you only get 15 minutes before the set of games start, and then you just know where the map's at, so then you guys have to think on the fly. So they don't know super preset in time, but they have set presets, but they don't know when they're going to have to use them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people might not like that just because it deviates so far from the game, like the non-competitive scene game version of the game. And I can definitely see merit to that, because you usually, like, if you're watching esports, you want to see the game that you sit down and play being played by pros at the highest level. And that's why I think, them being privy to information like where is the circle going to end, or maybe even like where's the first shift going to be, and that's the only information they get. Like, even that is so much more than you would get in a normal game if you just sat down and played PUBG. It definitely really hurts. The second tournament they played in, I believe it was like Saturday or something like that. It might have been Sunday. There was a game where they dropped in. They're North Yas, and they looted a little bit, but there was another team there, and they couldn't loot too much. They had to jump into vehicles, and they were pretty much moving the entire time. And none of them had, or like 2 of them had helmets. One of them had a pistol. Like, it just feels bad, because it's like, it doesn't matter how gifted you are as a first person shooter or third person shooter, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter how gifted you are at that if you're given a pistol against a sniper rifle. There's almost no amount, and some people would say, well, the best teams are going to be able to adapt to that and figure out a strategy to play around that. But at some point, if you don't know where the circle is it's going to shift, and you jump somewhere and that is very far away from where the circle's going, you have a limited amount of time, and if you don't get good picks on as you're looting, it's like the game's over at that point for you, and you're really just seeing how long you can survive, and you're playing not to lose, you're not playing to win at that point. The other thing that a lot of people have been bringing up is teams, including TSM, and people have been calling TSM out on this, are playing way too scared, and they're not playing aggressive. So, you watch the stream of these guys, and they're streaming as 4s, and they go in and, and they're definitely really laid back. And I understand it's not competitive, but they'll do a lot of really risky things. They'll jump into highly populated areas. They'll, Break will stay outside the blue for like the first shift. He'll stay outside the blue for like 5.5 minutes, just like on his own, looting every single thing. And that's just something that they don't do at all in competitive. Is that a problem, or is that just the competitive scene being different?
Okay, there is a few things that I'm going to rope in this one answer, and it's including also to your point of people being mad because the circles can't be random. In my opinion of the whole situation is that if you want a competitive scene, you're gonna have to know that there's gonna be shifts in it. It's just like the same exact thing with sports, like in sports in general. Are you really gonna expect an NFL player to play backyard football the same way he goes out there on the field on Sundays? Are you gonna expect the basketball player to do the pickup game at his local gym the same way he goes out every night and plays for his team? No. It's the same thing with League too. Do you see Double Up doing the same stupid shit that you see him doing on stream?
Beginning of the season,
sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back to the Team Liquid days too. He did die of a bread puff, so I mean, yeah, there is some merit to that one too. But like, there's gonna be, because there's higher stakes on the line. That's
right.
For me personally. For if you want to watch a competitive scene, you want to see correct. You want to see the game played at the highest level. But I also want to see the mind games at the highest level. I want to see them. What are these guys capable of? Yeah, reflex wise, if they already know what the fuck's gonna go on, or if they're put in this situation, I want to see how they react. And maybe it's them just feeling out the situation, or they're getting used to the shot calls. When they start getting gelling together and they start, okay, break, you're gonna be in point, so you're gonna be the first one to run a building. You call this side, blah blah this and blah blah that. And they start doing that, and they have a formulated plan. Who knows? Maybe they will start running into buildings like madmen. Like, who's gonna stop them at that point? And it just takes, like, this is like people that want to start barking now about it. Shit, man, let's see at GameCon, because all the rest of the TSM members seem way too chill. And outside of that, when they're playing, they're all super highly competitive guys. Like, in
Right.
general. So you think that they're really going to take all these losses and all these crappy finishes and go, I don't know what to do. No.
Yeah.
Reggie would never sign those guys in the first place.
Right.
Those dudes are still back streaming, not having any sponsorships, playing Arma probably, but whatever.
But
Right.
on top of all of that, when it comes to people saying no, if you get a pistol, they get a sniper, you should learn how to respond and come up with the best strategy for that. Dude, the game is what, 4 months old? Like, do you really expect even at the highest level for people to have fully developed strategies yet and like full answers to tough situations like that?
Right.
Maybe in a year, but like until that time comes, you're going to have to put up with people complaining about RNG and shit like that.
Right.
Because it's a new game. It's early in the competitive phases. It'll flesh itself out eventually, but for now, that's just going to be how it is.
Yeah. I think I like the amount of RNG there is. I guess this is my last thing on this. I like the amount of RNG there is. I think I don't know if this would break the game or solve it, but I would really like to see the first circle shift a little bit later and the first circle close in a little bit slower. And I think that would allow teams. Now, I don't know if that would break the game because then every team could be fully looted at that point. But I think that would definitely allow teams to get on the ground. You can do long shoots. Then you don't have to dive and go to whatever's immediately around you. You can pull immediately when jumping off the plane and get far away from everyone else. And it allows teams to get at least a little bit of equipment going into the game. The other last thing is if you want to take the RNG away and you want to say where the first shift's going to be for teams, change the loot so that some of the better gear, not all of it, but some of the better gear is further away from where that shift's going to be. So teams, if they want to, if you want to camp the center of the first shift and just find a building and sit there, you're gonna be camping with pistols and and frying pans, and that's all.
I agree with that completely.
And if you want to make the move and go jump far away from the circle, you're gonna be rewarded with good guns, but then you're gonna be people are going to be camping the circle at every spot, and you got to fight your way through that. I think those would be interesting ways and they would really show how good teams are instead of, the circle shifted on this one team twice and they got first at the tournament. So
yeah, agree.
Sweet. Well, we'll see that coming up here shortly. The last bit of news that we've got is the NALCS. Wow, that came out weird. The NALCS All Pro team. All Pro teams were announced today. 3 TSM boys representing, not in the first team, but you got Double Lift. You got Double Lift representing in the first All Pro team. Hanser and Bjergsen showing up in the second All-Pro team. Initial reactions for me was I'm glad, and I know we saw this last split as well, but I'm really glad that we've moved away from the number 1 seed team has 4 of their 5 players as All-Pro, and we actually have so what are you guys' thoughts on the voting there? Anything that you would have done differently or like to see different?
I don't have a problem with it. I think Jensen and Bjerg are both phenomenal players. Like, I don't want to say, take either one. Of course, I'd rather have Bjerg just because TSM. But, like, Jensen had an insane split. Like, I figured that Jensen Bjergsen is going to be, like, the main topic, so I figured I might as well just address it right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Jensen had an insane split. His KDA was like 8.7 or something this split, and Bjerg is like 6.27, I think I saw. And everyone says, "Oh, Jensen's a KDA player." Like he's just a great player. Like I love watching Jensen play. I really don't have a problem with him, like I said, taking it over Bjergsen, but I do think that has implications on the MVP voting in general, because I think Bjerg had the most players of the game over the split, so that gave him a lot of points for MVP voting. But now Jensen has this, and I really think Ole is going to be like, I think Ole is going to take it, like, because everyone's been talking all split. Support's never won; it's always been carry roles, but like that just makes more people want to vote for the support. They want to see this for the first time.
Yeah.
Right.
Other than that, I think the team's pretty fair all the way down, all three teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty understandable, every single one. I like, as good as Biofrost is, I can't really compare him to Olay or Smoothie or Aftermoo. I would say he's just outside of, but it's understandable that Aftermoo's there.
Aftermoo also has been playing his mind out the end of this split.
Yeah, he's been nuts, especially when he's on playmakers.
Right.
As for Spenskaren, he played really well this split, but at the same time, this has been a crazy split for junglers where, dude, when Lyra isn't the best jungler in North America right now, that's insane. I'm talking like X-Smithy might be like top, like, I don't want to say top 5, but I'll say like top 7 or 8 junglers in the world right now, because
I'd give him top 5.
Wow.
I'd give him top 5.
Oh,
Easy.
dang.
Easy.
Cold.
I mean, like, here's the thing. Lyra, especially more last split than this split, because he's been great this split, but like he hasn't been quite as good. He was one of the best early game junglers in the entire world, and they weren't winning games, but that's because they had shit teammates.
Yeah.
But X-Smithy, I think he's playing at that same level that Lyra was last split, if not a little bit better in some ways, because I think he's translating it into wins. Obviously, he has better teammates, but the way that he's translating it into wins is just cleaner than Lyra was doing it. So his early game is around the same level, and then his mid and late game is a little bit better. So I would say that it's not that crazy to think that he's like a top 7 or 8 jungler in the world, because who are you going to say, how many people can you really say are better than him, really?
Right.
There's like 4 in Korea, maybe 5 in Korea,
Right.
and then the conversation gets interesting.
That's 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 in Korea. Maybe.
Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting because CLG doesn't have why did I just say CLG? Holy cow. Sorry, hold on. Recalibrating. Immortals doesn't have an easy road to get to Worlds. I mean, kind of like most teams that aren't named TSM and
C9.
I mean, but C9 even, like it's a bumpy road, and it's going to be difficult. So we might not even, there's a world where we don't even see Xmithy against, some of the top junglers in the world.
Sad
which would be very sad. And that kind of brings us to, I guess we can jump into this right now. LCS playoff predictions. So I know TSM is not playing this upcoming weekend, but we kind of want to just talk about predictions for this upcoming weekend and what that's going to do to affect TSM and their shot at going to Worlds, as well as other teams, who's going to be representing NA. So for those of you who don't know, we've got C9 versus Dignitas as the 4 and 5 seed, and then the 3rd seed CLG is playing against 6th Envy, I believe, unless I got that wrong. Yeah, against
You're
Envy.
good. Yep.
So I guess let's start with the spicier match, C9 versus Dignitas. What are you guys thinking on this? Dignitas has really made a surge, especially if you look at Dignitas's trajectory since the beginning of Spring Split. Like, what is this team?
Yeah.
Like someday has arrived.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, I think
no, Adrian Ma has arrived. That's what really
Adrian
happened.
have arrived.
Janna is meta.
Yeah, Janna is meta. Adrian is back, and Alltech decided he wanted to play ADC again.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes down to it, this is the test. If they can beat C9, then they're pretty legit, honestly, because that's been the problem. They haven't done well against playoff teams almost ever until Alltech and Adrian came in, where they beat TSM, they beat Immortals. Basically, when it comes down to it, I don't think this is where like the pressure comes in, because if they can't beat C9, then obviously they would never have done well anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So basically, this is going to be pressure on every single player, because these are mostly players outside of like Sunday that have not had that level of success that they've been looking for. All Tech has been a hopeful player for a long time who it just never panned out with him being super successful. Adrian on that same thing with the Immortals rosters that he's been a part of. Keen with Gravity, they were at some point very, very highly projected. Like they were the best team at NA when Gravity was like at their peak.
Right.
But they haven't had that domestic success yet. So this is the first time where it's like, wow, it can really happen for these players, especially as the squad. So basically, this is where I see the test really being. If they can beat Cloud9, then they're legit. If they can't beat Cloud9, then they're an inconsistent team that is not worth investing your time in.
Yeah. I guess then talking about C9 slumping, or, where is C9 right now?
C9 takes this whole series. I'm calling it right now. And they're 3-0 and Dude,
really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
because of the storyline. Jensen doesn't lose only unless it's in semifinals or finals, and it has to be on a play that he has a chance to win it, but he doesn't take the apple. But it can't be this early. So he has to 3-0.
Preordained.
Yeah, dude. There's no other storyline. We can't break it. We're already in this tunnel. We're already in this timeline. That's what's.
He's gonna get 20 kills in a game again.
Yeah, he's gonna poop on Keen because Keen's gonna probably pull some bullshit out. He's gonna pull out Urgot mid. Just wait. I'm waiting for that shit. Just waiting for it. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna be happy. I'm just gonna be sitting there going, Jensen's gonna be picking Echo, and it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, he's not gonna read patch notes, and he's gonna pick Kane mid.
Oh yeah, but then and then Contracts is gonna poop on Shrimp. Impact. Actually, Impact is probably going to lose to Someday. Sorry, Impact / Ray, but Someday is really good. So
I think they settle on Impact. Actually.
Yeah, the past couple of weeks they've been playing Impact.
Ray's been having like mental issues, so they went for Impact.
Well, still, Someday's really good, so I'm not putting it past that kid. And then it depends on what Sneaky shows up. If it's Weeb Sneaky, then All Tech and them can get out of his way because he's going to go to town. But if it's the Sneaky that plays against Double Lift every time, then ain't going to look happy. He's going to have a leaky butthole, or whatever that saying goes.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yeah, I could see this as a really difficult match for C9, and almost in the same way that you're talking about Dignitas needs to win this to be worth something, C9 needs to win this to prove that we're not just Jensen, we are a team, we are decent, and they've had standout performances throughout the season where they've each had decent games. Contracts is definitely the number 2 best player on that team, and it really comes down to, if the other players don't show up, how hard can Jensen and Contracts carry that game? How hard can they snowball Jensen, and can they do it in a 5-game series? We've seen them come out all right in 3-game series, but now we're up to the longer series, and that might help them because they've been in these situations. They've gone through the finals tournaments before, and they've been in finals to game 5s, but does this team have what it takes to beat, a surging Dignitas?
I think one thing that I'm concerned about, sorry.
You're good.
One thing I'm concerned about is with C9, they just nerfed the mid laners that they've been blind picking all split in Ori and Talia. And Ori is Jensen's most played champion, and you can't just blind pick her anymore. She got nerfed pretty hard, actually. Right. I don't even think that she's going to be a highly contested pick because I think that a lot of the matchups that she went even in, she now loses.
Yeah, the buffer time really you almost have to relearn her in a sense, she feels so different now.
Yeah, and she doesn't go even into Syndra anymore. She doesn't go even, or she doesn't win against Cassiopeia anymore. So now she's going to be a pick that is specifically for team comp and not for lane. So I think that is actually what you said about proving that they're not just Jensen. This is the time to do it because Jensen's champs just got nerfed. So it's time for the rest of the team to step up. So are you saying, Brad?
I was going to say, I actually think, I'm looking at the lineups right now. I'm looking at the matchups.
Oh, he's going to call it for Dig.
I am. I'm going to say Dig's going to take it. Maybe it's because I'm petty because Björk didn't get first team, but I just want to see Jensen lose
Stupid C9 people.
as early as possible.
Mhm.
Like someday's gonna beat Impact, I think, but like when we saw them play TSM, someday would play like Fiora and get snowballing, but he can also play things like Jarvan. Like Jarvan's huge in the meta right now. Contracts he's gonna win against Shrimp. I'm pretty sure that's a wash. And same with Jensen, like his lane's gonna win. Again, it's all gonna come down to what Dignitas top lane and bot lane shows up. If it's the Korean god someday, and like if Adrian gets his supports, like the Janna, the shield supports,
He's whipping out Sona. I'm calling it.
that'd be
No, I
Play
believe it.
Sona.
I believe it. I think
I'd
so.
be okay with that. Yeah, I mean, because with Ardent right now and Sona can just heal the whole team. Like it is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It is.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say I'll say Dig in 5.
I'm gonna say C9 and 5.
Okay.
C9 3-0. Easy.
Okay.
Jensen.
Okay.
I'm putting
I mean-
all my chips in Jensen. He's gonna whip out Azir and I'm gonna show you guys all. Azir's
definitely
coming
will.
back.
You think
Mhm.
Jensen's gonna whip out Azir? Wait till you see Keen's Azir, dog.
That is true.
That is true.
Honestly,
that is true.
I think it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if someday shows up or not. I think he's gonna win top lane.
Mhm.
I think that's where he is right now. Him not showing up is still better than Impact right now.
Yeah.
I think the bot lane's gonna be a wash. I think this meta does favor contracts more than it does Shrimp right now, but I think it depends not what Jensen shows up, but I think it depends what Altec shows up. Will he pull his cheesy champions, and if he does, will he find success on them, which he has in the past. And yeah, I'm gonna put this Dig 3-1.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Respect
think that. Yeah, I think a keen cheese match is gonna lose him a game, but I think other than that, they're gonna close out the series. And then the second series is CLG NV. Yes, Chris.
I'm waiting for my dream matchup right here, baby. This is gonna be who TSM plays right here. Right here, baby.
Hell yes. I mean, I think we all are aware of Free LG.
Dude,
Yeah.
Lyra's gonna go poopy on their jungle, and Omar God's gonna get turned inside out, and they're gonna win that way, because then CLG's gonna tilt, or they're gonna win one game, give you all hope, and then Lyra's gonna be like, nope, game over, and then Niski's just gonna have a good performance. Apollo and Haku are gonna do their thing. Seraph's gonna do his thing and feed, but Lyra will be a beast enough to carry his heavy ass, and then they're gonna win. That's what's gonna happen, because I want to see that NVTSM matchup, baby. I want to see Lyra versus Scaring, please.
I just don't see Envy pulling this out. Lyra would have to carry so hard because every single other position is just getting smashed. Like Seraph, Darshan is on a huge upswing right now from his, he hasn't looked this good since back when he was, what the heck was his other name?
Zion Spartan.
Zion
Spartan.
Yeah.
Like this is,
And he's never looked this good on Shin.
right. And so you've got Darshan looking great. You've got, Omar God is the one like weak point, but
That's all you need, man.
We've never been saying until the past couple of weeks who he is the biggest threat on CLG.
Yeah.
And that actually is a scary prospect.
Outside of Aurelian Soul.
Yeah. And it's not on Aurelian Soul. And then Afromu's been playing his mind out. Like even against TSM, they lost, but Afromu was 5-man knockups. He was getting huge engages.
That was the best losing Alistair performance I've ever seen.
Right. And I don't see a world in where NV, unless like everybody on CLG is sick and Zix doesn't know what he's doing in Champ Select, like I don't see a way that NV wins this. I'm going CLG 3-0.
Yeah, I gotta agree. CLG 3-0.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Like the only thing that I'm worried about for CLG is the jungle. Like Omar God he hasn't been in these high pressure situations. Like it's playoffs now.
all
Like
you
you have to It's you have to step up. Like it's
Jungle
win
is
or go
everything.
home.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
you
like,
carry through the jungle. He gets Niski
but
roll. Dude, Lyra.
Lyra's a god. Don't get me wrong, but like Apollo and Hakuo, like I think personally they're underrated, but I don't think they're anywhere near the level of
They're not
Stixay and Afro.
that underrated.
Mhm.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, they are. Because this is the matchup. I'm calling it right here.
See, you say that TSM versus NV, but you know how TSM throws games against bad teams.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
See,
Mhm.
see, we get it out of the way
Not in
now. We
playoffs.
stomp it, and then we're just like, see, the bad teams don't bother us anymore. And then we move on. Then we, worry about bigger things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll
the
take,
implications of this weekend, the only thing that really affects TSM, obviously, other than who they end up playing in the semifinals, if C9 does not beat Dignitas, TSM clinches the bye, as nobody else in the tournament has enough points, championship points, so TSM can either finish, first for the auto qualifier or second, third, fourth to qualify on championship points. So if you want TSM to go to Worlds and you don't care about C9 that much, root for Dignitas. If you want to see good games, root for C9 for spicy matchups and whatnot. Because I believe unless CLG loses, TSM will be playing the winner of Dig C9. If somehow Envy beats TSM, yeah, we'll see that famed TSM Envy matchup.
The legendary.
Dude, I'm calling it
Yeah.
right now. I have zero faith in CLG, man. Nope. All my faith left with Double Lift, bro.
Dude, as much as I want to have faith in Envy to beat them, dude, Envy just kind of.
it's just not there.
Just remember the name Lyra, guys. Lyra.
Sweet. So
You can Seraph out of my head.
Yeah, Lyra will carry him out of your head for you, actually.
You're just hoping, huh?
savage.
Uh,
All right. So that is league. Last thing we want to talk about real quickly is upcoming matches. Leffen and Zero back at it again this weekend. Not at the same tournament this week though. Leffen's going to be at the Air 4 tournament, which is going on the 17th to the 21st. Zero is going to be at the I honestly don't know what this is. The 2GGC SCR saga. Somebody want to fill me in on that? What those mean? What do those letters mean?
I don't know what the letters mean, but I know who's there, and I think that this is going to be a pretty big deal for Zero, because if there's any tournament to bounce back at, it's this one, because Tweak is there. Nero is there, and basically everyone who he's lost to is there, and if he can just power through them, this is like the tournament to come back at.
Yeah. This tournament's going to be going on 19th and 20th. I believe that is Saturday and Sunday. And then, did you want to say something about that, Chris?
I just hope they're not shit shows. And I hope those tournament runners listen to me and fucking pull their head out of their ass.
Yeah, can we
what I
send that
hope
clip
for.
directly to them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Stamp me on it too.
Yeah.
I'll sign off on that.
My boy
Nice.
Chris.
Whoop.
And then another thing to note, as we're recording on Wednesdays, PUBG and GamesCon starts on the 23rd, which will be when we're recording our next episode. The first day of GamesCon will have gone on by that point, so we'll have some PUBG news for you next week. So tune into that. That's going to be the first time live, stakes on the line tournament for this TSM squad. Get excited. Hopefully they got their communication. Yeah, see, they've got their communication work done. Let's see if the tournament organizers, game designers, all of that stuff get game worked out to make it a nice, fair competition for all the teams that show up there. Even the spectator client, it's really cool. It's still a little clanky.
Definitely.
It's not the word I would. Yeah, it's got some issues. Not the easiest to follow. So we'll see what the production is like. If you have not seen any PUBG at all, I don't know if I would necessarily say go watch this as your first as your introduction to the game, like I would with other stuff. Go watch the streams of the TSM guys. Go support them. They're usually pulling in about 2,000 views or less, so definitely hit them up. subscribe, do whatever you can do. They're a lot of fun to watch. Very knowledgeable about the game. They don't just crack jokes, but they do crack jokes. And it's almost, when you're watching them, I think like almost every other game is a chicken dinner, if not, multiples in a row. I watched one night where they went 7 in a row. They're very good at this game. A lot of fun to watch them. So tune in when you have time. And I think that's all for TSM, unless something else pops up before this weekend. Any final thoughts from any of you guys about anything going on this weekend or into next week?
Let's get playoff and world started. I'm pumped for that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some good old international play, and I'm ready. And shout out to if anybody wants to see some really, 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 really good League of Legends, Friday night or Saturday morning, 1 a.m. The Telecom Wars is happening. 5 games.
Oh, yep.
SKT, KT semifinals. They get to play Longzhu next. This is gonna be the game. Like, it's gonna be one of the best League of Legends games this year, minus like Worlds finals and like semifinals and all that shit. So if you have the time, watch that. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, definitely. That's something to show up to. TSM chants in the chat during those games, please.
Yes, please.
I'll see you guys there.
I'll see you guys there. Anyways, thanks for sticking with us for week 2. We will be back next week again with more news, more analysis, and more calling out tournament organizers. So
I'm here all year, baby.
TSM, go TSM. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Peace.